Welcome to the Mapuana Reed Show. Today we have my dear friend Jenn Meredith. This woman has been with me for like 14 years, 15 years maybe. I photographed her so many times over all of the years. I will say she's the one person who has booked me the most.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and sometimes she would just come into the studio just to get hair and makeup done and, just to chat. But I loved it. I've watched you grow so much over this time. And today she's going to take us on her journey.
So not vain at all.
So much has happened in Jenn's life over the last 2 years, and she is going to take us on her journey, on her grief journey, and on her healing journey.
Thank you, Mops. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me. And, it was just super fun to hang out with you. And you are such an inspiration to a lot of women, in the work that you do in photography, having the women to empowering women. So I just loved hanging out around you, in that environment. But yeah, thank you for having me on your show today. So,
Take us on a brief on a brief grief journey, and then we'll dive deep into your healing journey.
Sure. So grief for me, um, I have come. I have been thrown into grief in the last 2 years. I would say 3 years. Like a brief background, my dad passed away in December 2020 from cancer, and it was COVID time. It was devastating for our family, um, and just seeing the devastation in my mom and my siblings. I'm the eldest, and I immediately went into crisis management mode. So I shoved all my emotions and all my feelings down and just, got stuff done, got the work done. And not long after my dad passed, my husband died from suicide. And that just broke me completely. It knocked at my core. And I didn't like myself at the time. And again, I went into crisis management mode, organizing the funeral, the family service, the flowers, the decorations, making sure my children were okay. I got busy. I stayed busy doing everything but sit and feel. Um, Suicide, mental health, and trauma was a very foreign concept to me, and I think it's because growing up in a Samoan community and Pacific Island communities, we don't talk much about suicide. And when suicide is mentioned in spaces, I feel like there's always a hint of shame, and things always get swept under the rug.
Or even mental health.
Yes.
Especially with men.
Yeah. Well, mental health is like a foreign concept, right? Like for me, I only just found out, heard of mental health when I was here in Hawaii, but then it wasn't back then. It was only just a couple of years, as I was going through my career woman era, there was a lot of talk about mental health, taking care of your mental health. Like I said, suicide, mental health, and trauma wasn't something that it was deemed, I felt like it was always deemed shameful. And I never really understood why, because now in my journey my healing journey, I've come to realize that suicide is a byproduct of mental illness, right? And mental illness is just like any illness. Like it needs a cure, it needs medicine, it needs therapy, it needs awareness. So why do we sweep it under the rug? It needs attention. There's always that stigma in community around suicide, and I feel like we, in this day and age, and with technology, we can do better as communities to face it head on, right? Address mental health, address the mental illness, because in my not I mean, I've done research on it, right? Like I can't help it. I'm in that space where I have questions I need answers to. But suicide is like the up there, number two with the cause of deaths, right?
Wow.
Suicide is number two. In all ages, like can you believe from age 10 and up?
Wow.
Yeah, it's in youth,
That's
teenagers.
crazy because
It's
nobody
crazy.
talks about
No,
that.
nobody talks about it. And even me, I was blown away just by
Mm-hmm.
looking at the statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why don't, there's not enough talk. We talk about cancer, we
Mm-hmm.
talk about high blood pressure, we talk
Mm-hmm.
about diabetes, like all these things. But that's exact, suicide is up there.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health is exactly in the same, right? In the same level. So why isn't it getting um, the same attention as finding a cure for cancer? Because it needs to. It's the number two reason or cause of death in the U.S. and I'm pretty sure in the whole world
Mm-hmm.
today. So yeah, so it's been painful. It's been very slow, and I read some. I never had third-degree burns, but I read somewhere that the recovery is very slow and very painful, and that's exactly how this journey has been for me. Very slow, very painful, and lots of learning,
Mm-hmm.
along the way because we don't know how to handle. We don't know how to handle grief in these spaces, especially in if you're a Pacific Islander like me. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just do the funeral, get the funeral over and done with, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't have time to sit and
And feel.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
like and process. But I feel like processing it's important.
Yeah.
We need to process those feelings. So, yeah, that's just brief of
Yeah.
of how it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some things that you did for yourself to help you to deal with grief? Or what maybe some things that you've done with the boys?
Um, I think in the beginning of my grief, I felt like it started with my dad, but with that, I never had the time to feel
Mm-hmm.
or grieve.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get the time to because when my dad passed, like everything kind of passed on to me. Like the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility was now mine. So I had to take care of the family, take care of
Mm-hmm.
village, all the things that my dad was doing. It fell on me. I was home at the time. So my grief started, I felt like it actually was hurting and I was feeling it with my husband's passing. But also because I didn't know how to handle something like that. Like my husband passed of suicide. Um, it's different from my dad passing from cancer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we knew that
Mm-hmm.
he had cancer. Um, so I didn't know what to do. Like most of the time I just got busy. Most of the time it was, I would say it was an out of body experience for me. Like most of the time I was walking outside of my body, looking at myself, like doing the day to day,
Mm-hmm. Like
getting
going through the
by. Yeah, like
motions.
going through the motions. Um, so yeah, in the beginning, I didn't know how to heal, and I didn't want to. I don't want to say. Maybe it's not right to say that. Like I didn't want to heal. It's just because I didn't know it, and when there was a time when I was feeling it, and I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling all the emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
it was after when everybody left. After
Mm-hmm.
the funeral, and there was
It's like when all the doing stops and
yeah,
all the
when all the doing
preparation and
yes,
everybody goes home, and then you have to sit and
and I
realize,
was
okay, this
sit
is what my
yeah.
life is now.
And I hated it. I
Yeah.
didn't like it. Um, I was just, I was just looking at photos. I was crying all the time. I wasn't looking after my children. I wasn't cooking. Me and my children were living by ourselves. Um, wasn't showering. I was not taking care of myself. And I myself also was um, contemplating suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like anyone who's lost a loved one to suicide, you also, I feel like, I think I'm not sure about the statistics, but I think there's about 75% of people who's lost someone to suicide, they themselves consider it, right? And that's where I was. Like, I went down this rabbit hole. I was spiraling and I considered it and I hated it. Like, I did not like myself. Like, I always felt my strength is my strength. Like, I'm a strong woman, right? I've always been that strong person. So I realized that, and I was like, no, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to do that. So then I packed everything away, packed my feelings away, and stored it like back of my heart where I won't be able to see it or I won't be able to feel it, and just soldiered on. Like, got myself busy with my kids. I built a house. It was completed within 4 months, which was the fastest. Shout out to my builder. Shout out to my builder.
They're probably scared of you. They're probably like, we don't want to tell her we can't do this.
They're probably like, oh my gosh, it's the witch again. But yeah, I got myself really busy, and I threw myself into my work. I threw myself into taking care of my children. And that's how I survived through that, I think, a year and a half period of my life, right? Like, the one thing that I did always do for myself was hiking. I loved hiking. It's always been my thing. Like, it's always been me and my husband's thing, actually, my whole family and my husband and my kids, but it's always been my thing. So hiking for me was my time to myself. I wasn't thinking, right? I just walk. Like, my goal is just get up the mountain, and get back down before it gets really dark, right? That was just my thing with that. And that was what I was doing to get myself better and getting my hair done. I know people, like you were saying, like, I come and do my hair and makeup with you, but getting my hair done has always been a thing that I've done since I had my kids. Since I got married, actually. With all the pressure of work and the world and family and everything, getting my hair done is my 1 hour of
your me time.
Break.
Your break.
Of my me time, of not thinking about anything or anyone and just focusing on me. That's my way of taking care of me.
I think it's important to know what you love, like things like you're hiking. So you already loved hiking, you loved getting your hair done and stuff. So I think it's important, like if someone's going through this, that if they just kind of feel like, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, let's take it back. What do you love? Like, what did you always love? Do you love reading books? Do you love going on beaches, going to the beach, getting in the ocean? Like, what do you love? And just one step, one hike at a time.
Because I also felt like in the beginning I was isolating myself a lot. And like, self-isolation is definitely not good when you're in your earliest stages of grief, right? Because then you're sitting in your thoughts. You're battling with all these things that's going on in your head, because you're going to have a lot of questions. You ask a lot of questions, and those questions need to be answered. So it's just going to drive you nuts. It's going to drive you crazy, right? So finding community is it's really important. And I can speak for myself when I say that in the beginning, I did not want that. And I think when you're in the deep hole of grief in the beginning, you don't want to have anything to do with anyone or anything, right? So you self-isolate, you remove yourself from spaces. But I also think it's because you the feel the grief and the pain is so overwhelming. You don't know what to do with yourself, right? You are so confused, because number one, if you had someone who passed of suicide the way my husband passed, like, you have questions, right? So you're blaming yourself, you're blaming them, so you go this yo-yo back and forth, of feeling, did I do anything wrong, or could I have done something to help them, or what could I have done, what they could have, like, opened their mouth and asked for help. So you're yo-yoing back and forth, and the confusion is just there. But I can say for a fact that you will never know. We would never know what happened. Like if someone has passed or suicide, only they know the answer to that. And I don't think we should spend so much time trying to figure out, because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what happened, like hearing
Like
stories from,
why?
yeah, like why, I mean, of course we found him, but why did that happen? Why did he do that? How did we get here? Like, so yeah, for me to get through that couple of well, I think like almost 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
was just keeping myself busy,
Yeah.
which I can say is a very unhealthy way to deal with
Mm-hmm.
grief.
Mm-hmm.
But it got me through that. Um, but as I
And therapy. Yeah.
therapy, of course, and like the community that I said, like you just gotta have that one person that says you got this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can do this, and if all else fails, I'll be here with you. I'll
Mm-hmm.
stand with you in the mud,
And that was your cousin, right? I remember you told me the story.
Yeah, so there was a couple of people. Like I feel like I look back now and I'm like, at the stages of my grief, there was always someone there
Mm-hmm.
to tell me what I needed to hear, right? And especially for me, like for people who have known me really well, they know that I'm a very strong person. I get things done, and I don't like people telling me what to do. Right? Like I don't like people telling me what to do, because I know I can do everything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I know, but I've always been the person to do things, get things done. Right? So you just got to have that person who's strong enough and knows you enough and is brave enough to like sit you down. And in the beginning of my grief, I had this friend, like one of my girlfriends that I grew up with in Samoa. She's like the shortest of all my girlfriends, right? But I feel like all my girlfriends have really big hearts, but she's not afraid to tell me, girlfriend, like, what are you doing? Like, so she sat me down and she goes, you need to talk to somebody, because I was self-isolating, right? You need to talk to someone, you need to see someone. And I know we don't have professional help here in Samoa, but I wanted to give you this because I want you to go. Like, it was my first trip back here after Sam died. I want you to go, and I need you to go see a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need you to talk to somebody. If you're not going to talk to us, you need to talk to someone, because you need to get better. You are not good. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
keep telling us you're good, but you're not good. So she went over this whole spiel, and I'm like, okay, fine. Yes, you're right. Right. So I took that trip. I came and I I saw a couple of therapists, like uh, one from my, medical, on the medical field, but then I also saw someone who does energy therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good for me. Like, it was very interesting, but it was also amazing how I could feel the difference after just talking to them, right? Because I grew up in Samoa, there's no therapy.
Yeah.
Like, there's no therapy. Our therapy is smack on the butt, or
Yeah.
But yeah, therapy was something very new to me. And in the beginning, I didn't want to talk about it, but I felt as I kept talking about it, it helped me process
Mm-hmm.
what I was feeling. But the key to therapy is consistency. And when I went back to Samoa, I only did a couple sessions online, and that was it. So then I felt it was so easy to fall right back into
Mm-hmm.
self-isolating, and things like that.
I think we need that people in our life though. So we need like either it's a cousin or
Oh yeah,
sibling or best friend for them to
yeah,
just tell you straight, like, listen, this is what, like, you
yeah,
need to get it together. Like,
yeah,
I know you're going through all this stuff.
yeah,
I'm here for you, but this is what we're gonna do, you
yeah,
know?
definitely. So
Yeah.
I had her do that in the beginning of my grief. And then on our way here, when we decided to move back to Hawaii, we stopped in New Zealand. And we stopped in New Zealand initially so I can spend some time with my siblings, because my siblings live in New Zealand, most of them. And funnily enough, we ended up in Christchurch. I have a sister that lives in Christchurch, but we weren't supposed to go down there. She was supposed to come up to Auckland. But somehow we ended up going to Christchurch. And I didn't stay with my sister. I stayed with my cousin. So this cousin of mine, just like me, very strong-willed, she's a woman of her own. And I hadn't seen her in a long time. So we ended up staying with her for the whole time we were in Christchurch. We stayed with her. And like the Lord works in mysterious ways. Like he works in these amazing ways and put things and people in your path when you need it, right? When we left Samoa, I was so burnt out. Like I was, because I was just doing all the things. And when people have expectations of you and your children in your time of grief, it makes you feel like you're not doing enough, like you're not enough. And then you get to self-loathing. And then you just become this not nice person, like, a mean person. So when we left Samoa, I was feeling all that. I was burned out. I was drowning to the point where as soon as we exited the plane in Auckland, I was sick. Like, I thought I had COVID. That's how bad it was. Like my body couldn't even move. Mm-hmm. But we made our trip down to Christchurch anyway. And as soon as we landed in Christchurch, my cousin welcomed us, my sister, blah, blah, blah. And like after a whole 5 seconds, she was like, okay, listen here, you.
Like, you are going to listen to me, okay?
She goes, okay, listen here. I know you don't like people telling you what to do. And I know you think you can do everything yourself. But the whole time you're staying here with me, I just need you upstairs, sleep. Shower, sleep, eat. That is your routine. She goes, that is your routine. The whole time you're down here, all I need you to do is just sleep. I don't want you to, because honestly, my whole journey, in the beginning, for a long time, I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I would go 3-4 days without sleep. Probably probably like 1 hour sleep here. And then by the end of the week, I crashed.
Yeah.
Like I crashed.
Like your body's just so exhausted.
Because my brain is on survival mode, right? It's just survival mode. But your body is like, hey, like calm down, like slow down. But my brain wasn't doing that. So my brain is up. Thinking. And so my body is taking the hit for everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just, so my body just shut down. Mm-hmm. So in Christchurch, my cousin, she sat me down. She's religious as well. And she's like, you need to take care of you. You're like so busy, staying busy, taking care of your kids and of everyone. You need to take care of you. So while you're here, we're taking care of the kids. You eat and sleep. Eat and sleep.
I think people are afraid to do that, though. I think some people, they don't know how to help.
No. Yeah.
And they don't want to like say something they don't want to maybe say something that's going to make you sad or bring up old memories or any of that stuff. But I think it's important for people to be like, it is okay. Like sometimes you just need help.
Yeah.
And sometimes no matter how strong you are, sometimes you need that person to be like, listen here.
Yeah.
This is your job. This is all you're going to do. And
Yeah.
But I think that I get it too, because stepping into that, like, how do you help in a way that they're going to receive the help, that you're not going to be pushy, or like, what do we do,
But it also like when it comes from someone who has no expectations.
Yes.
And
that person just loves you and wants the best for you.
When it comes from someone who has no expectations of you but to get better, but to get your spark back.
Yeah. You're going to bring Jenn back.
It's different, right? It's different when you're receiving it. So I had that friend in Samoa who did that. And then my cousin in New Zealand who did that. And she just sat me down, and every day she would quote some scriptures and talk with me. Like she not only just let me sleep and rest, but she talked with me she was kind of like my therapy at that time, right? And the one thing that she said to me that just stuck with me was, in the Bible, in Psalms, it says, walk through the valley of death, right? So it's not saying sit there. It says walk through.
It didn't say pull up a chair and park.
No, it doesn't say park there. It says walk through, because we all go through tough times in our lives, but we struggle through it. Like, I was definitely struggling through, but she says struggle through it, but go through. Don't sit there.
Don't
go
stop.
through, because what happens when you come out of the valley, right? What happens when you get out of the valley? You're at the mountains and you see the view, and the view is beautiful, right? And then that really was something that really stuck with me, and I'm like, yeah, this is not forever. Like, I'm feeling this, and then I keep thinking about my husband. I'm like, man, like, you know, he was probably feeling like that was going to be his forever. Whatever feeling that he was feeling, he was probably feeling like he's never going to get rid of that feeling. But no, we're given, everybody has trials. Everyone is given, like, you know, everybody has tribulations, but it's not the end. No, there's people out there who can help. Yeah. And, you know, it just shows strength when you get through. So if you are in that feeling, like if you are in that space, reach out. There's people who want to help. And
there's also professional help too. Like, if you don't have a group, or you feel like you don't have maybe cousins, because you know, sometimes we got bazillion cousins, but maybe you don't have cousins or siblings, or feel like you could reach out. There's professional help that you can reach out to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like in our Pacific community, when you're talking about professional help, it's like, oh, they don't know what we're going through. But hello, they're professionals. They have been educated in what we're going through. Like, they're educated to know how to help us go through this, right? And I was one person that I looked at therapy as like, what is that? Like, no, like, I can,
like, I'm fine.
I'm fine. I can do this. Like, but no, it wasn't until I went through it myself that I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, you know, we do need this. Like, these people, they know how to talk to you in a way like, so why are you feeling like that? So you're feeling like that because, and, you know, and it uncovers a lot of stuff.
And it helps you release.
Yes.
You know,
it releases it. And then, so there's those people that you need. And then when we moved, but it's funny, like I said about consistency, you have to be consistent if you really want to get better and want to move through, right? Because it's easier said than done.
It's easier to start to park there.
It's,
when you're all in the feels of feeling the feels.
It's easier said than done, because grief is a very real thing. Like, and it's I feel like it should have its own body just sitting there, like, you know, right next to you. So you have to be consistent in the work that you do to get better and to move through.
Even on the days that you don't want to.
Yes, even on the days.
Because there's going to be a lot of days like that.
A lot. Like, when we moved here, and this is another good example of why I say consistency is key, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people is key. Finding community is key. I mean, I got through it by the grace of God, obviously, right? With all the things that I have gone through. But I feel like finding community and just being consistent in talking about it, reaching out for help, and just talking to someone when you're feeling down or when you're at your low, it really helps. Because for me, the thing that I always revert to is keeping myself busy.
Yeah, so having a community is really, really important, regardless if it's your sibling, a best friend, a coworker. I think if anyone out there is listening to this and you have someone in your life who you think are going through these things, you know, like either it's mental health or someone who's dealing with grief, just reach out. I think it's so important just to reach out. And not
self-isolate.
Yeah, not self-isolate. Yeah. But even just having the friend, if you are a friend who has a friend, you know, reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm just calling because I know you're going through a lot, and I want you to know I'm here, and you know, or something, or just be like, I'm coming over. And you are not going to tell me no. I'm bringing dinner. I'm bringing whatever, and I'm going to come over, and I'm bringing my pajamas in case if I need to sleep over.
And they're not going to like it. If they were like me in the beginning, they're not going to like it when you just come. But you know, too bad. Like, so my friends would do that. They'll bring food over, and I'm like looking at them, and they're like, we're not here for you. We're here for the kids. Like, you know, so they'll come and they'll feed my kids or hang out with the kids, and I'm just on the couch sleeping.
Yeah.
So you don't know when they leave, but that's very important, right? Like
maybe you didn't see it then, but now looking back, you're like, that was so important for me.
Definitely. Like, it was really important for me because I know that they care, and that's all somebody who's going through that wants, is just knowing that there's a community out there who's got you and they care about you. So yeah.
Take me back to when you knew that you needed help. Take me back to a moment that you're like, okay, like, what was a pivotal moment that you knew, like, I need to reach out for help?
There's this one time that I always remember, because I feel like that was when I knew that I needed to be better. I had gone on a hike, and it was last year, September last year. It was Sam's birthday month. And I went to work, and I had gone on a hike, and then I came back home, and I was just stretched out on the floor. And my son, my baby, he came up and he goes, "Mom, I felt Dad today, and when we were brushing teeth this morning, he wanted me to give you a hug. That's why I hugged you," right? And so I just smiled at him. I just smiled at my son. But as soon as he left the room, the floodgates opened, and I just sobbed, uncontrollably sobbed, stretched out on the floor. And I was sobbing so loudly that my other son, my second son, came into the room and was trying to calm me down, but I couldn't. I couldn't control it, and my body couldn't move. Like, I tried to get up to go to the shower just to get away from my kids so they don't see me, but I couldn't even move. And he came like, tried to lift me up, but my hands just went up and down. Like, my body was just tired. My body just was like shut down already. And I told my kids, please leave Mommy alone. Go lock up the house and say your prayers and go to sleep. I'll be okay. I'll see you guys in the morning. So I think like a half an hour later, I made it to the shower, and I sobbing again in the shower. But those kind of sobbing where you can't even control it, and it's so loud, it just comes out like wailing, most kind of. And that's where I was. And so when I finally made it out of the shower, just put on lava lava and cried myself to sleep. The next morning I woke up, and I checked my phone, and there was messages from my mom and my mother-in-law. What had happened was my second son, when he couldn't help me, he texted them, and was saying, and his text just broke my heart. He's like he texted my mom first, and then my mother-in-law was like, "Hey, Nana, Mama, could you please pray for my mom? She's having a really rough time tonight." And then like that broke my heart. And then as soon as I read that, they came running to the door. And then my baby was like, "Mom, I prayed to Heavenly Father last night to help you not be sad. Like, like you're always so sad. And we know that you miss Dad a lot. But we prayed to Heavenly Father to help you get better and not be sick and not be sad." And just the way they were saying it, and just the look in their eyes, like they looked so worried. Like they were so worried about me. And that was the moment I realized, you need to snap out of it, woman. Like, like whatever you do, you got to do it now. You have to get better, because it's not me. It's not just me. I have 3 human beings that rely on me. And I think he texted my other son, because he was in Pango, my oldest one. He was in American Samoa, and texted him. And my son was calling, like my phone had like 10, 11, 12 missed calls from him. He was worried, right? So I definitely knew right then and there that I have to get better. Whatever I was doing from then on, I have to focus on me getting better. And for me to get better, I had to process my emotions. I had to I have to feel my grief. Just because I was suppressing all my feelings and my emotions, I was suppressing happiness and joy as well, because I wasn't feeling, right? I was just day by day.
And sometimes you just got to let out that ugly cry. You got to get on the floor and just let it out. Because holding it, it's like a pressure cooker. It's just about ready to blow at any moment, but you just got to release a little bit at a time if you can. You know?
I was like ready to blow, right? And I'm like, no, I have to be better. I have to be happy for them, and I have to be healthy for them. And that was the moment. That was it. Like, I was like, okay, that's it. We're moving. And that was like last year, September, right? I was like, okay, Heavenly Father, I know you've been trying to tell me that we need to get out of here. I've been dragging my feet just because I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know if I was going to make it on my own. Like, for me, before all of this, I knew I could do anything, right? But when all of this happened, I was like second guessing myself. I was like, I'd go and then I pull back and I'm like, wait a minute, like, no. So I'm like second guessing and like talking myself out of things. So that was the moment I realized, no, you have to get better. You have to process your emotions, go through your grief. You have to go through it, because that's the only way I can let it all out. And for me to be able to get better was to go through the grief, go through the emotions, embrace it. You have to embrace the journey, because it's a part of you now. And I realized that grief will always be with me, but I can't be sad all the time. I don't think my husband wants me to be sad all the time. Yeah. I have to find my happiness first. I have to take care of me. And, because my boys need the better version of me. Yeah. I can't be this half-assed kind of person and this mean mom. Like, no, if my kids, and, if you're a solo mom or a widow going through this, what I've realized in my journey is when I'm happy, my kids are so happy. It's just as simple as that, right? Like, we try to overcomplicate and overthink things, but no, your kids just want a happy parent, a happy mom. And I know that, and I've realized that. Like, my kids and I have gotten so close. Like, we have conversations, open conversations. We have the hard conversations about what had happened to their dad, because my whole thing is I want my kids to understand that what happened to their dad, it's not going to happen to them. It doesn't have to happen to them. It will not happen to them. What happened to him was because he was sick. He needed help, right? It's just like cancer. And I always do that. It's like, Dad, Papa had cancer. Dad had mental illness. Like, he needed help. And because the first thing they said to me was, Mom, what did we do? Why did Dad do that? What did we do? So not only I'm questioning myself, my kids are questioning themselves too. And we don't even think about that as parents, right? Like, as a mom. But I realized as long as I'm happy, they're happy. So my whole purpose and my whole, like that, and that's my sense of purpose now, and my sense of peace is realizing that I'm here for them. I want them to live happily. And
I'm sure that for them, they have just been through so much, and now that, like, you're the only parent they have left, and so for them, they're just kind of feeling like, I just want to make sure that my mom is okay,
But I don't want that pressure on them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, people come, and I think people just don't know what they say in these spaces, right? Like, when my husband died, a lot of people, my own family, they would be like, oh, you're the man of the house now, like, to my kids, because I have 3 boys, right? And I just sit there and I'm like, no, I'm the man of the house. They're just kids. They just need to enjoy their childhood.
Like, don't put that on them.
Don't put that pressure on them. That's one thing that annoys me. But, you don't blame them, because people don't know.
They don't know. They don't know what to say. Like, what do you say in a situation like this?
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I just want to be happy. I want to be healthy. And I'm on this whole journey of self-discovery, like, rediscovering myself. I'm not going to be the same person I was before I met my husband. Because in the beginning, I was like, I want to be that girl again. But I cannot. I cannot be that girl again, because that girl never had all this experience. Like, like, I've been with my husband for, we'd been married for, 18 years this year. And we've been together for like 20 years this year. So I've had 20 years of experience than that girl, that single girl. So in the beginning, I was like, I want to be like her again, like,
Because that's all you knew to be. Yeah. So it's like, now you're in this whole different chapter of your life with a blank page on, like, what do I do now? Yeah. What do I do? Who am I?
So yeah, we had 20 years with him, like
Yeah.
always me, him, and then it was me, him, and our kids. But now it's like me, and then it's me and my kids, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to be a better mom for them, I have to be a better person, and I had to do the work. And I
Yeah.
had a friend here. She's one of my really good friends. She's also a single parent. Um, you know, when we moved here, I immediately went into crisis management mode. Like, got the rental house, like, try to buy a house. And then there was my in-laws stepped in and helped, like, my brothers-in-law and stuff. And then she stepped in and she's like, girl, let's meet up for lunch. Like, I want to talk to you about something. And we met up and she goes, are you really trying to find a job? Are you really trying to go back to work? And I'm like, yeah, we moved back here and da 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 da. She goes, but do you really need to work? Like, do you have the means to? I was like, oh, yeah, like, and then I realized, I'm like, yeah, I really don't have to, like,
Yeah.
And she goes, I feel like you should just take some time to yourself, to take care of yourself.
And
like,
rediscover you
yeah,
again.
she goes, I feel like this is not the right time for you to go back to work. But like I said, you have to have those people that are brave enough to, like, sit you down and be like, but it also has to come from a good place. Because if that came from someone that I didn't know, I'd be like, I want to punch you in the face.
You're like, I will fight you. You don't know me.
I will fight you. You do not know. But, like, she sat me down. We had a long conversation, and I realized, yeah. So I went from trying to find a job to, no, I'm taking a year off. I'm going to take this year off. I'm going to recoup. I'm going to do the rediscovery thing. Like, I've been reading a lot. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I've been reading books about suicide, like books that have been written by survivors, people who have lost people to suicide. And I'm like, man, we need a community, like, because
that's what you should do, is build a community here in Hawaii.
I haven't found that community here. I was looking because I wanted to put my kids in that type of community, just to share what they're going through. I mean, we share at home, but I feel like it'll be different, like, with community, with other kids, kids who have lost parents or lost siblings to suicide. And I know there are a lot, like, I'm now hearing stories about suicide, like youth suicide, like, husbands, spouses. And I'm like, man, why aren't these things, like, talked about? Like, that is one of the things that I want to do, is I want to create that community. Grief support. I mean, grief is, there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of different types of grief, right? But the one I'm talking about is suicide grief. People who have lost loved ones to grief. I want to create that community for them. I don't know where to start, and I don't know when I'll start it, because I'm on my own journey of,
You know what I think would be really good is create what you need, because someone else out there is going to need this. So create it for you. Create it for you, and create it for the boys, and offer it to others. Because whatever you're going through, someone else out there is going through the exact same thing. They just don't know where to go, and, like, what help to get, and they're like 10 steps behind you.
Yeah.
Create it for you and the boys.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Whatever you need,
I will. I know it's in my plans. I know it's something that I want to do. I just have to, find structure and pinpoint the ones that people would really need, like what I really needed, and just, like, jot down how it's gonna go and things like that. But definitely something that's on my to-do list, my long list of to-do lists.
Yeah. So if there's someone out there listening to this, someone who's going through grief, what advice would you give to them, being that you're like 2 years into this?
I think one of the advice I would give would be just realizing that just because something ended painfully, like, it doesn't negate the beauty that it gave.
Yeah.
And the goal is, we really have to be well with our story. Like, we have to be embracing our whole story, the good, the bad, the ugly. That is how we move forward. And we have to You have to find community. The way to do that is, for me, number one is find community and be consistent in doing the things that help you get better. It's so easy, like you said earlier, to just fall back.
Fall back to the old self because that's all we know.
Yeah, that's all we know. And that's why I say, like, grief work is hard work.
Yeah.
Right? Healing is hard work. It's easier said than done, because the easiest way to do is just sit there and cry and self-loathe and blame and be angry, and be sad. But that's not the point of this life. Like, life is a gift, right? We have to live it. We have to live it for us. Like, for me, I have to live it for me. I have to live it for my kids, and I have to make all these memories with my kids and live with my kids, remembering my husband. Like, we did so much as a family, and I stopped doing that for a while just because
you guys traveled a lot. There's so much you guys did.
We did so much. Like, and a lot of people said to me when Sam passed, like, you guys have done what couples in their 60s and 70s have done. That's how much you guys have done together. And it's so true, because we were that couple that we were like, we love living life, right? We love to explore. We love new experiences. But mostly me, I just drag him along, and he loves it. Like, in the end, and he became this person, like, oh, where are we going to next? But you cannot live your life continuing to be sad. Grief is always going to be there. And I also, like, I heard somewhere that grief is the unexpressed love that we have for that person who's passed, right? And it is so true. But it also tells me that we do not want to get rid of grief. Grief will be with us. We will feel it. We'll sit in it for a little bit. But then we have to bring ourselves out, because we have a life to live, right? And it's not like we're not remembering our loved ones. No, we carry them with us every day and in everything that we do.
And you carry the love and the memories.
Yeah, we carry the love and the memories. And for me, for a long time, I did not. Like, moving here was very hard for me, because we had so many memories here. We created a family here. We went to school here. That's where we started dating, everything. But I realized as I was going through this healing journey that no, I have to face those fears. So instead of not going and doing all the hikes and going to the beach and doing the things that me and my husband usually do and us as a family, I'm not going to ignore that. I took my kids to it. And so the Pali Lookout was one of me and Sam's first hike, and one of the first places that we went to when we first started dating. And I've ignored that place. Like, I wanted to go up there, but I've ignored it. But me and the kids went hiking up Diamond Head one day, and we just drove down, and I just went in, like, the Pali Lookout, and I took the kids. I was like, do you remember that photo that's in that album? Like, these photos, we were like so skinny. And then my kids were like, yeah, Mom, you guys were like stick and, you guys were like so skinny. I was like, yeah, well, this is where that photo was taken. So, we took a picture, and then I did a side by side, like 20 years later. Yeah. Like, this is us 20 years ago. And this is me and the boys 20 years later. And that's how I am living my life now. I'm making the memories and
making new memories and sharing those memories with the boys. Telling them, like, this is where we would walk and talk and sit and
because I feel like life, we are here to live life, right? And grief will always be part of our life, and there's no distinguishing or there's no balance in between. It's like they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The new memories, the new beginnings, and the grief, they work together. I feel like they coexist, right? There's no balance in between. It's just one thing. Put it together, and that's just one thing. And that's what I want for my kids, and for me too. My goals have shifted and have changed. Like, I'm not here to buy the house or buy this and that. I'm here to create the memories, because when I'm gone, that's all my kids will have, right? That's all my kids will care about, is all these memories.
And how are they going to remember you? They're going to remember you when their dad passed, their mom just never recovered,
I don't want to be that mean, that be like, oh, my dad passed and my mom just went into this rabbit hole and she just like was mean and like, just wasn't a nice person. No, when I leave this earth, I want my kids to think, oh, yes, my dad passed, but my mom gave us this amazing life. Like, you know, like we did so much together. We have so many memories, even if it's just hiking or just laughing at the dinner table or watching a movie or whatever, small, however small it may be, just make it like memorable. Just be present in the moment, yeah, and in the now. Be present in the now. We will always carry our grief. The grief will always be with us. It's not that we're gonna forget them. They'll always be with us. It's just be new memories with them, like alive or our loved ones who have gone.
I think as we wrap it up, I think the best advice you said was don't you go through it. So tell me that. What did you say again? You go through it. What was a
like when we walk through the valley of death.
Yes, yeah. So the best advice I feel like on this episode was when you walk through the valley of death, you walk through it. You don't pull up a chair. You don't park your car in there. You go through it.
You go through. You go through, because once you get through the valley, you get to the mountains, and the top of the mountains, the view is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I have kept that with me. And every time I'm at, you know, because I always have low points. I cry. Like people think when she's happy, she's not crying. No, she cries. Homegirl cries. But when I'm at those lowest points, I'm like, walk through.
Go through. Just know that you're in it, but you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
Go through.
Have your cry and then keep going. Walk through, because the view is beautiful. So
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenn, so much for sharing your healing journey with us. If you're listening to this episode and you know someone who is going through this or going through anything with mental health, these are just some steps that, you know, maybe you could help them and for them to get some help.
I hope this will help somebody.
Yeah, I hope that this episode helps someone on their grief journey. Or share, like, do all the things. Share this episode with someone who you feel may be going through this. And hopefully this episode can help. Thank you so much for listening to the Mapuana Reed Show.
Thank you.